Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, and let's figure out what is happening today, what we can expect moving forward, and all of that good stuff. So as usual, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership session is live. That link is down below. If you're interested, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, post updates, technical analysis, options flow on Tesla, sometimes other stocks. Every single day the market is open. So if that's interesting to you and you find that potentially useful, check it out down below in the description. Just $3 a month. But jumping into a Tesla closing the day, green ever so slightly, up about 0.5%, we'll say, closing at just shy of $197.50 per share, which compared to the market, pretty much in line with the market, right? More or less, QQQ up 0.25%, Tesla, of course, up about double that. Roughly in line with that market in terms of the way it should perform relative to. But with that being said, let's talk about it, right? What does this mean? Like, is Tesla going to rally forward? Do we go even higher? Like, where do I think it's going to go? So yesterday I talked about how I personally believe Tesla, shouldn't go too much higher, right? I talked about yesterday how, it's pretty overbought, right? It's a massive candle, beautiful breakup, but it's overbought. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a small retrace, which we kind of did in the intraday. We did go down to about 194, even though we closed at 197.5. But, we slowed down, right? We slowed down. We're not like substantially rising as much anymore, up only 0.5%. So that kind of makes sense. But I personally still expect that. Now, in my opinion, the best case scenario right now, in my opinion, very short term, like maybe even as early as tomorrow or like maybe Monday or something like that, is a rally up to about 205. That's like the best case scenario. I'd be genuinely like pretty shocked if we go higher than $205 per share, like on this initial like move, like continuing from this move, right? Without any retrace, without any cool off, like nothing, just straight past 205. I'd be pretty surprised. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. Now, obviously I could be completely wrong, right? I'm not always gonna be right, but I'd be pretty surprised. So the way I look at it is this, right? So first and foremost, like we came up to this almost $200 per share, right? Pretty much like 199-ish, if you will, which was that pivot point that we saw over here back on April 29th, right? Came up almost exactly to it. And we, slightly rejected from it, right? I wouldn't say it's a massive rejection. We did actually reject a lot more aggressively earlier in the day when we did go back down to 194, which is kind of what I expected, though I thought it would go a little bit lower personally. I thought this move was going to actually bring us down to 191 is what I was expecting, but Tesla's definitely showing some pretty serious strength. A lot of options flow, which we'll go over here. Substantial amount of options flow coming in as well. Calls more specifically, but Tesla's still looking quite strong, right? Obviously we rejected at this pivot point, and this is an area to reject at, and if not here, I think the best case scenario for both, like I said, is 205, where I definitely expect a rejection. I'd be again surprised if we do not reject from there. But that's kind of the main idea I'm looking at right now. Right now, the question, of course, is, okay, well, let's say we do reject. Let's say, whether it's pretty much here, like 199, $200 per share, or all the way to 205. Well, what do I think is going to happen next? Personally, almost regardless of where we go, I personally think a move down to at least 191 is just, it just makes sense, right? It makes sense. We come back down, we retest these massive levels, potentially as low as 187. 191 to 187 will be that level I'd be expecting us to retrace to, because you can see, if I bring this all the way over here like this instead, right? We've rejected at this level many times, right? Many times we've had issues at this kind of 187-ish level, and even a few times closer to 191 with this pivot point all the way over here. So coming back down and returning these areas from old resistance into new support is just healthy for the stock, right? Now, again, whether or not that's going to happen tomorrow, next week, if we have next week delivery numbers, could be off of that. I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, PPI tomorrow. We have a data set tomorrow coming out as well. Maybe that could be the catalyst. Who knows for sure, right? But ultimately, regardless whether we reject here or we go to 205 first, I do expect a rejection at one of these levels, and I do expect a retest back down to 191 to as low as 187, and I do want to see those levels hold. If we lose 187, essentially, it does make things a little bit more complicated, right? It does make things a little bit more concerning potentially, and we'll talk about some potentially concerning patterns for the bulls very briefly. So first and foremost, right, we could potentially be setting up a bit of a double top scenario where we have from this rally down here a massive move up, and then we came back down, and then we came back up again, pretty much at the exact same level, and now we came back down. In order to really potentially remove this double top pattern, we want to go to 205 so that this double top pattern is no longer that good looking, if that makes sense, right? It doesn't really make as much sense anymore, but rejecting at this level over here can potentially put some, little bit of fear into the bulls, at least in my opinion, where this potential double top pattern. Now, I personally think, and the strength that's showing and the way it's broken out and everything from this green trend line, this past trend line back here, I don't think this is going to be the pattern that plays out. I'm just kind of bringing it up as, well, we like to look at both sides, right? This is the bearish side, right? This could be something the bears are looking at right now and salivating over. Could be an option. I'm not saying it could be an absolute option. This is a very real possibility. I personally, though, Personally, I don't think it's going to play out. I don't think that's going to be the pattern that plays out. Even if we do reject from here, even if we do come down to 191, 187, I personally don't see that pattern playing out because of the strength Tesla is showing on decent volume as well. So just my opinion, of course, but we'll see. The other bearish things that I would be careful about is the fact that, well, even though the MACD and the RSI is still great, the stochastic is getting to pretty extreme levels over here. And if we zoom out, right, it doesn't get to these levels very often without some correction, right? Some form of correction. Every single time it's come up to these levels with potentially a little bit more room to run. Currently, the green line is at about 68. It can go even as high as about 88. So there's definitely still some room to run, right? It doesn't mean it has to reject here. But, every time it's went into all these levels, pretty much well above this, top of the line, if you will, over here, which is sitting at around 40, which we're well past that now. Literally every single time it's had some form of correction. Doesn't always have to be a severe correction, nothing crazy, but nonetheless, a slowdown / correction. It's happened every single time. But again, I want to make that very clear. It doesn't mean that it has to happen right now. There's no top signals for Tesla right now. Tesla's not showing that it wants to start correcting literally as of right now. There's nothing showing that yet. So if you're someone that's looking to short, these are the levels to potentially short it at, but there's still no actual signal telling you the fact that it's actually ready to reverse, because the worst case scenario for the people who are trying to short this the stock is it goes sideways or maybe slightly up, but mainly sideways, and you're still losing. You're still going to lose on that short if you're actually buying puts, of course, right? You're still going to lose on that short. So because you're going to lose to time decay, right? So that's why there's no actual signal that it wants to actually move downwards just yet. So, technically it's still, showing some good strength if you want to be, more technical about it. So keep that in mind. The stochastic is getting pretty extreme over here, right? And even if I bring out my favorite indicator, the band's regression, also getting pretty extreme. Right? We're at the second stage right here out of the 3 stages of being overbought, right? It's pretty extreme. And also with all the other indicators, every time it's come up to these levels, you can see all the way back here in past examples, it doesn't stay here very long, and it does usually correct back down at some point. Now, the caveat here is the fact that, and I said this before, once Tesla does break out, which it has, of course, I personally expected Tesla, and I said this before, I expect Tesla to stay overbought for longer than usual, because usually when Tesla gets overbought on the daily, or especially the 1 hour, it just corrects back down pretty damn quickly to the white line. In this case, we're actually going sideways, potentially making a bull flag here, and that white line, which we usually revert to on the 1 hour, is actually coming back up to us, which is a good sign. We're showing strength, which is nice. That's a good sign to see. I do like to see that. But, on the 1 hour, getting a very slight bearish divergence on the RSI, on the stochastic, a little bit of a bearish divergence. The MACD on the 1 hour is starting to potentially flip bearish. So, we're starting to lose a little bit of momentum, which is why, like I said, if we do go a little bit higher, I think the best case is 205. I'd be pretty surprised if we go higher than that, because, the momentum is starting to fade a little bit here, right? After this massive, huge push that we had. I mean, we pretty much went from 182 all the way to almost $200 per share, $20 point move in just 3 days, we'll say roughly. That's a pretty substantial move in a short time frame. So, not uncommon to get a potential cool off here. It's just, again, when do we get that cool off is, in my opinion, the question, right? Because again, there's no signs showing that Tesla wants to start that cool off, wants to start that very small correction down to 191, 187. So, short at your own risk, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So those are the main things I'm looking at right now overall in Tesla. Tomorrow, of course, we'll take a more closer look at the weekly, but the weekly is looking great. I think the weekly is looking pretty damn good overall. Obviously, stochastic, you can see here, also starting to enter some overbought territories. But again, even with that being said, there is still more room to run. It doesn't mean it has to reject here. It's just the risk versus reward is starting to diminish for the bulls, especially because we just, the optimal entry was down at the 180s, right? If that's the place that was, that's where you buy, right? That's where you were supposed to buy the shares, around the 180s, the low 180s, high 170s. That was where you were supposed to enter the position, not up here. Just my opinion, of course. Just my opinion. We'll see. But yeah, let's take a look at options flow really quickly. Options flow, the main thing I want to look at today is actually going to be the bought options. And why is that? Because there, as you can see, a substantial amount of calls. But the main thing I want to point out is going to be this, right? If I click on this, you can see a pretty obscene amount of 220 calls came in today, especially closer to like 10 a.m., right? Pretty much starting at 10 a.m. and to 10:30 a.m. for that pretty much like half hour-ish time frame. An obscene amount of calls came in for Tesla. Almost every single one of these is $200,000. Count how many they are times by that, right? I don't know, if I had to take a wild guess here, it's probably close to like $6-7 million of calls, maybe more. Honestly, they came in just off of the ones that came in past 10 o'clock, right? And they're all 220. They're all September 20th. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty damn bullish. Like, that is a lot. And they came in like almost one after the other. It's like bam, bam. It's like a domino effect. It just kept going and going and going for like half an hour. So that's pretty bullish, right? So clearly someone's bullish for Tesla moving forward. But again, they went out to September. That's obviously a few months out. They have time. It's out of the money, but it's not substantially out of the money, but it is out of the money. But they have time. It doesn't mean Tesla needs to rocket tomorrow, even necessarily next week. But they do expect Tesla to rocket, probably moving into, my guess, the robotaxi event in August. That's my guess. That's my theory. We'll see if that holds true. But ultimately, that's pretty damn bullish. And ultimately, like I said, this is why I don't think that double top pattern, the bearish pattern, is going to play out. I think Tesla's still really strong. I just personally think it's going to have a bit of a cool off here, maybe some sideways action, maybe a small dip to 191, maybe as low as 187. That's my current expectations. But as long as these levels hold, I think Tesla is ready to move up even higher, at the very least to 205. And if we break 205, I think this final boss trend line, this red line over here, which is currently sitting out on the daily chart closer to 220s, is pretty much in the cards. If we break that, then I think we pretty much unlock the opportunity to make our way to fresh all-time highs. But that, of course, will still take time. It just unlocks that door and we begin that path, if that makes sense. But ultimately, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I am expecting. So with that being said and done, let me know what you think down below, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, don't forget, we do have, where is it? I guess I have to reset it here. I'll do this one here. We do have the 200-day moving average not too far above us, right? Don't forget that. That is going to be acting as a potential major resistance. If I bring it out right here, you can see it's sitting at pretty much 205. So that's going to be a major resistance as well if we do get to that sooner than later. But regardless, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.